There is a heap of fake microscope content online lately on TikTok and all over the place, but there's also some really good genuine creators out there too. So how do you know what is real and what is fake? Zelda sent me in a clip wanting to know exactly that, and she said I'd check it out myself, but I don't own a microscope, so I decided to send it to you. Now, I agree the best way to be able to spot a fake is if you actually look through a microscope and get familiar with what the real thing looks like. The only problem is I don't own a microscope either. I did microbiology at uni. I've used a microscope plenty of times, but to get a setup that is suitable for filming can be pretty pricey. So I bought a second-hand one on eBay. But unfortunately, the seller didn't package it very well. There was no packaging in the box at all. So after removing all the broken glass and doing some repairs and buying a light globe and cleaning the lenses, we have a microscope. This sort of microscope with the objective lenses here is designed to focus light from underneath through the sample, and then that gets magnified through a series of lenses so you can see it through the eyepiece. And for that reason, you need a really thin sample so the light can shine through it. Here I'm taking a tiny layer of onion, and you can use water and a slip cover to hold the sample flat and in place. Let's see if this microscope works. And it does. You can see there the onion cells. This is a cell, and this is the cell nucleus. If I swap to a higher magnification, unfortunately it looks like there is some damage to this lens. You'll just have to ignore anything that stays still when the slide moves. Those are dots on the lens, not the sample. Zoom in even more and you can even see the movement of vesicles inside the onion cell. You can think of vesicles as like little packaging boxes or round containers that move things like nutrients around the cell. That's a bit oversimplified. It has other functions too, but we're not going to get into that right now. The other day when Jed and I were out adventuring, we saw an echidna. Can you spot it? There it is. These guys have a really long tongue to get into logs, and they eat ants and termites, and if you try and touch them, they'll give a little kick to tell you to back off. We're not going to put him under the microscope, but we also saw lots and lots of butterflies flying everywhere. And as well as all of these ones that were beautifully flying around, there was sadly a dead one on the ground. So I picked it up and brought it home so we could take a look at it under the microscope. And you can see the butterfly wing is actually covered in tiny scales that look like little feathers. Now when it's lit up from underneath like this on the microscope, we're only seeing a silhouette of the wing. But the other thing we can do is light the sample from the top instead of underneath. This is a bit tricky on this type of microscope, but now you can see the colour and what looks like pollen on the wings. Using the microscope like this and lighting it from the top means that we don't need the sample to be super thin because we don't need the light to shine through it anymore. But it does still need to be very, very flat, and that's because objective microscopes have a very narrow depth of field. If you're not familiar with the term depth of field, let me show you what it means using a normal camera. Here the boys are all in focus. And then as they separate, you can see they all remain in focus. Even the window in the far distance is crisp. This is what is called a wide depth of field. By comparison, if we look at the bottom shot, as they separate, only James remains in focus. The other two boys are now blurry and the background there is completely out of focus. This is what's called a narrower depth of field. The area that is in focus is not as deep as before. The depth of field on an objective microscope is incredibly small. Have a look at this and see how when I adjust the height of the microscope very, very slightly, things at different distances are going in and out of focus. What you're actually looking at here is the eye of the butterfly, which of course is tiny, but I can't get the whole thing in focus at once. So the objective microscopes are best when you use them with a sample that is completely flat. That is, after all, what they were designed for. You can get a different type of microscope that's called a stereo microscope, and it looks like this. And they have a deeper depth of field, so you can get a more complete picture of something under there, and they can light from the top as well. The only issue is they can't zoom in as much as your objective microscopes can. Now you might be thinking, I remember seeing some black and white images of things really detailed and everything crisp and in focus and really zoomed in. Images like these come from a scanning electron microscope. These machines range in price from hundreds of thousands of dollars all the way through to millions of dollars. And they don't use light at all. Instead, inside a vacuum, they shoot beams of electrons at a sample, and then they measure the backscatter or the bounce off of those electrons and then process all that data to get a picture of what the surface looks like. And the great thing about these microscopes is you can see things in even more detail than an objective microscope can show you. Due to the huge price, I don't know of any YouTubers who own a scanning electron microscope, except for Nick, who managed to find a broken 1980s model and spent months and months looking through manuals and figuring out how to fix it and get it working. So if there's something you want to see scanned and a photo of it in incredible detail, go and watch his video and put it in the comments. But now that you know it is actually possible to use an objective microscope to get a shot from the top of the surface of something, watch this video and tell me if you think it is real or fake. That one is fake. It showed using an objective microscope to look at the surface of something from the top, which is highly unusual, and it had a really deep depth of field, which, as you now know, is not what those types of microscopes have. Also, in the first shot, it showed something that looked like a larvae wriggling around, and then when you zoomed in, it showed something completely different. That's not how it works. Think about when you look at something on your phone. If you zoom in, it's the same thing but bigger. That should be what you see on a microscope as well. The same thing in more detail, not something completely different. Now, I don't think you should worry. Some of the comments on this was people going, oh no, I'm going to be eating fruit fly larvae when I eat fruit. You can see fruit fly larvae with your eyes. You don't need a microscope to see it. They're quite big and they damage the fruit, so they'll leave a brownish area all the way through the fruit. And most farms spray for fruit flies because they are very destructive and will just ruin all the crops, and they multiply very quickly. So you don't need to worry about that. Next, let's look at a video of a strawberry. These are not fruit flies. They're some sort of mite, and I would guess they're one that's been added here for filming. The most common type of mite that you'd find on strawberry plants is the two-spotted spider mite. It's not a spider, it is a mite, and it has those two spots on either side, hence the name. And it tends to be on the back of the leaves. That's what it eats, and that's where it lays its eggs. And if you have a big infestation, you'll get like a web-like looking thing over the leaves as well. So it's not so much that you're going to find it on the strawberries. The issue is if it eats and damages the leaves, the whole plant is damaged and can die, or would definitely have reduced crops. So it's something that farmers have to control for. Let's have a look at the strawberry that I've got here. This is just my normal camera zooming in, and you can't see any mites at all. In their video, the mites were nearly the same size as the strawberry seeds. So if there was something like that crawling on your fruit, you'd be able to see it without a microscope. Now, looking at the strawberry under the microscope and lighting it from the top, this is the leafy bit that's at the very top of your strawberry. And this is the fleshy part of the strawberry. And this giant thing here, can you guess what it is? This is the surface of one of the seeds. Moving on to the next clip that was sent in by Caroline. This video is of course fake as well. When you make Nutella, both the hazelnuts and the cocoa beans are roasted, which would kill anything that was on them, and then they are ground into a really smooth paste to make the Nutella. It's highly likely that in this clip they have added mites, maybe water mites from a pond, and just popped them on top there to try and make a viral video. We've got another Nutella clip here for you to watch as well.
Nutella looks surprisingly beautiful under the microscope.
Oh, it looks like the Maldives. I'm so confused. Why does it look like an holiday?
This one is real, yay! But they are using a polarizing light filter on their microscope, which is why you're seeing all those beautiful colors. And the reason someone would want to do that is it helps to highlight all the different things that are in something without using a stain on the sample. If I show you Nutella without a light filter, it looks how you'd expect. Fat and sugar with occasional bits of hazelnut. Did you know that Nutella is only 13% hazelnuts? So it's definitely not a great dietary option. Speaking of which, let's put McDonald's under the microscope. This is fake. It looks like they've rolled the fry on the carpet or dirty clothing. Oh wow, look, there's a live maggot that they have obviously planted there. It would not have survived the heat of the deep fryer. Let me show you what a McDonald's fry looks like under the microscope. It looks like oily potato. What a surprise. Honestly, the scale that they showed you that fry at was not under a microscope. You'd be able to see all that dirt with your eyes if it was on it. Next, let's have a look at McDonald's nuggets.
What's this? A strand of something odd. Pink and blue fibers of some kind. There was quite a bit. More plastic. A lot more than I was expecting there to be.
This one is from 2022 and it is legit. Last year, a study in the US looked at all different protein sources, from freshly caught fish to chicken breast through to processed foods like chicken nuggets and vegan plant-based alternatives, and they found microplastics in all of them. Now, the ones that were highly processed had more microplastics in them, so things like your chicken nuggets, but they looked at all different brands and there wasn't really a difference between them. There's just microplastics in a lot of our food. Now, I had a look at this chicken nugget from Australia and couldn't find any microplastics in it at all. That doesn't mean that there aren't any microplastics in the chicken nuggets in Australia, it just means that I couldn't find any in the nugget that I had bought. But I do know there was a study a little while ago looking at fish that was caught in Australia, and there was a lot less microplastics in them than fish that was caught in other parts of the world. So it may be that we might have less than the ones in America. But microplastics are a whole different topic. Let me show you a few other things under my microscope and see if you can guess what they are. These are all being lit from above, and as far as size, imagine your screen width is showing you 1 millimetre, or about the size of half a strawberry seed. Can you guess what you're looking at? This is an Aero wafer chocolate bar. Now for the next one. Any guesses as to what this is? You should be able to tell from the structure and that pattern on it that it's something natural. It is the surface of a blueberry seed. What about this pretty looking one? It has structure and shape even at this zoomed in level, so again you know that it's something from nature. What are your final guesses? It is the flesh of a cherry, one of my favourite fruits. How about this weird looking thing? It's rounded on the end and then it has a bit sticking up here. Do you know what it is? It's the tip of a prawn's leg. How about this next one? It's covered in hairs everywhere. I'll give you a moment to guess. I think you might get this one. Are you ready? It is a raspberry. Okay, one more. This one has areas that are white with tiny, tiny bubbles in it. And then there's darker areas that look like this. And some of the white bits appear to have small chunks in them. Are you ready for me to tell you what it is? It's a Toblerone. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else you would like to see under the microscope. With thanks to my amazing patrons, you guys are absolutely wonderful. I really appreciate your support. Make it a great week by being kind to others, and I'll see you on Friday.